Is, can we use on pea gravel, and is it pet and child friendly? Absolutely. In fact, the pea gravel held up ridiculously well. It is beautiful. Welcome to The Art of Gardening. I'm your host, Melissa Lala Johnson, and we have had an absolutely tremendous response to the mulch glue testing videos that I have been making, and they've been on my page and on Max's page. So we wanted to go over a couple of these different things with you and some of the details on it, because with all the hype, with almost 1 million views on one of our reels, we have had a tremendous amount of questions. So I wanted to go through some of these questions and answer them if you're considering using mulch glue. So a little bit about the background about using it here at my place. As you may or may not know, I'm in Kansas City, very windy, a lot of rain in the spring, harsh heat in the summer, and just a whole plethora of issues I deal with. My yard is completely sloped. The runoff from our cul-de-sac comes straight down through my property. And so I've had a lot of trouble over the years of keeping mulch in place. And I started using mulch glue about 1 year ago and have absolutely fallen in love with it. Now, when we're using the mulch glue, we're not promoting for you to spray it absolutely everywhere in your entire property. This is more for areas where you're having washout, or you're having a section of your garden bed where the pets may run through, or kids, things like that, where you're trying to get control over certain areas of your yard. So let's get into it. Let's go through some of these comments. One of the first comments is, can we use on pea gravel, and is it pet and child friendly? Absolutely. In fact, the pea gravel held up ridiculously well. It is beautiful. It locks together the top layers of whatever you're trying to bind together. So it'll lock in the top layers and seal them together. So you can see from the videos of the pea gravel, it puts a beautiful sheen when it's sprayed and dry. It'll put a really nice sheen on anything that you spray it on. So from the pea gravel to mulch to gravel to mulch, any types of mulch. So mulch as in, I prefer the pine bark nuggets, which are larger. So when I am spraying, I have to make sure that I'm super thorough, because some of the pine bark nuggets are huge. But if you're using smaller mulches, it'll hold even better. So using the shredded mulches, rubber mulch, any of those things will hold really, really well. And of course, it is 100% safe for children and pets. It is biodegradable, it is non-toxic, and we'll get a little bit more into that as we go through some of these questions. We have been going in and out of stock with the mulch glue, so as soon as it gets stocked, it sells out. So you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on that. Right now, there are a couple different types of mulch glue. There's Super Max Mulch Glue, Max Mulch Glue, and Mega Mulch Glue, and you can find them on PETRATOOLS.com or on Amazon.com. So definitely check it out. We are restocking as soon as we get them. You know, they're restocking frequently. So let's see here. What else? I live in the high desert. I would like to know how this would work on my driveway. So that's a great question. We did the gravel test, and as you can tell from the clips of the gravel, it holds incredibly well for gravel. So this was about 2 inches of gravel that it was holding. We are currently conducting tests right now on real driveways and spraying this through problem areas where the rock is kicking out, where you might make a turn or have other issues with the gravel moving in those areas. So we are spraying for that. I do anticipate that it will hold up great, but we will be showing more videos and more clips of that. What I'm doing is spraying it in these areas. I'm going to thoroughly apply it once, let it dry for an hour, and then reapply it thoroughly, and then let that cure for at least 24 hours. And then we're going to do some driving tests on it, where we drive the car over it. We're going to be bouncing basketballs on it, walking on it, and kind of seeing how well it holds up. And then in those same areas throughout the course of the next few months, I'll be making visits back to that spot of the driveway and checking it to see how it's holding up. And we will definitely keep you posted on that. Okay, let's see. Another thing that I want to make note of is that this is best applied with a sprayer. So if you do not have a sprayer, you are definitely going to want to look into getting one. PETRATOOLS is known for their sprayers. That's how we started. So if you check out PETRATOOLS, they have battery operated backpack sprayers, cart sprayers, huge sprayers, tiny sprayers from 2 gallons all the way up to just huge sprayers that can take care of an entire lawn. So 13 gallons, I think, is the biggest one that I have. And then there's still one larger than that. So check out their sprayers. I cannot say enough good things about the sprayers. And that's how I actually got started working with them, was testing the sprayers. And I had used all the others. I had almost every other type of sprayer that you can think of. And when I started using PETRATOOLS, the difference was very clear. So definitely check that out. Let's see what else is here. Okay, so is there a weight limit? Like, will this withstand cars driving on it like a driveway? So we're testing for the driveway. What I can tell you about the mulch is when it is thoroughly applied, meaning I've got a spot out in my yard that I use for the videos that I show you. It's a little spot at the end of my driveway that gets run over by my kids. Basketballs are in there all the time. There's just a lot of movement in that spot. Plus it's at the bottom of a very sloped driveway. So it's getting water and washout. I applied this 3 months ago in 3 coats. So 3 very thorough coats on the pine bark nuggets, and I still have 0 movement. You can walk on this. It's not advised. We're not saying to walk on it every day. But the one thing I have to also mention too is that this area is getting hit every single day with the irrigation. So not only I have a little patch of grass in front of it, so the sprinklers are hitting that every single day for a few minutes. It's held up beautifully to that, to the irrigation. And then of course we've had a pretty rainy spring and in through summer, getting just multiple days of just rain. So that has held up beautifully. But again, that was 3 thorough coats. I've got other areas of the driveway up towards the top where I did the test in 2 coats. That is still holding up very, very well. But I do anticipate that over the course of the months ahead, that will not hold up as well as the 3 coats. But we'll see, because it's doing great. And on a side note, I plan to, before leaf season kicks in, to spray those front beds so that when I am treating for the leaves and using the blower to get all the leaves out from underneath the holly bushes and all the different plants that are up there, I won't lose all my mulch. So I have had in years past where the beds have been clean for leaves and they have blown out every single piece of mulch from my beds. So that will be something too that I'll be testing as we get into the fall season. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Okay, is it slippery when you walk on it when wet? So if it starts raining, will it be slippery? So that is also something else that we are testing now. I can tell you though, when it does rain, so when we've had extended days of rain, meaning that it is raining almost nonstop for multiple days, it does turn a hazy white color, and that is because it's the glue. So it's made from a biodegradable polymer, and so that polymer is white. So it does get a very light haze. However, when it's being hit daily with the sprinklers, or if you get just a big rain that comes in, it stays exactly as it is. So it almost hardens and cures. So that is definitely something to take note of. It would have to be wet for a very long time, meaning 48 to, more hours to be able to get that haze. But as soon as that top layer dries, so it stops raining, that top layer dries, it goes away. Okay, so let's see here. Could I use this to make a downspout path with rocks? Absolutely. So the downspout path, because it is going to be hit with a lot of water coming off of your home, it may not last that 12 months of hold time. However, I would highly recommend this for an area like that. If you've got small rocks or, rocks in general that are within, an inch or 2 in that spot, it will definitely hold, through the future months. We're testing now to see exactly how long the hold is for something like that that's in an almost abusive situation of getting like hammered with water. But for right now, we feel very confident in the next, in at least saying it will hold for a few months. In the summer heat, will it become tacky? No, it will not. So we've already had a couple of days here where it's been in the 90s, like mid 90s, and it is completely dry, not tacky. It, like I said, it cures almost to like a hard like type of material, but not hard as in, we had someone else ask about, well, if they put it underneath the playground. So in their yard, they have a playground, they have mulch, rubber mulch, shredded rubber mulch underneath the treehouse area. So it would still maintain the bounce and the softness. So if a child fell on it, it would still give that softness. But again, that top layer will be bound together. So if you can imagine that, it's a little more hard on the top because of it locking and binding in those top layers. But then underneath, you still have multiple layers of the mulch that is soft. So you would still get that little bit of bounce. And I even noticed that I did a test the other day using a basketball, and I threw the basketball on top of the mulch, and I noticed I did it in slow motion and I did it in regular video. And I noticed when I observed the slow motion, it was almost like the mulch took the bounce, took the force of the basketball, and it came down, but then not a single piece moved out of place when it came back up. So that's what we're looking at for something like that. Okay, so can you drive on it? Will it break the glue? Again, this, when we originally created this product, it was to hold in place for weather and wind and things like that. That we can guarantee. If you have, and pets, I would think pets, just having a paw running through it and a lighter animal would be fine. But again, we're not promoting for a lot of walking or traffic or driving, which, like, again, we are testing. So we'll see how that comes up. Let's see here. Can you step on it? Yes. I mean, you can step on it, but again, it will break the bond or deteriorate the bond, make the bond less strong as you're walking over it, but it can be done. Okay, so we just put down black rubber mulch. Will this product work over that? As we have a flower planting in that bed, will the glue harm the plants? So this is a huge question that we get. And I want to be very clear with how I explain this. This is 100% biodegradable and non-toxic. It's made from a biodegradable polymer. And so this is completely safe. Even so, it's locking in the top layers of your mulch or whatever it is that you're putting in. So it's not being directly applied to the soil. We're not spraying it right on the soil. And even if it were applied to the soil, being that it is biodegradable and non-toxic, I have had this around my plants for a year now, and I have not had any adverse reaction or effects on any of these plants. In fact, some of my plants even got sprayed with it, and it's fine. So due to the cycle of the leaves, the same leaves, and this is on boxwood I'm referencing, they're completely fine, still green, still attached. I've been checking them over the last few months because I actually did that back in the beginning of March is when I applied those. So I was checking that, and it is now June 15th. So, but yes, so it will not harm your plants or your trees. Again, we're not flooding the soil and coating the soil. We are locking in the top layers of whatever it is that you're using. And then as it rains and as it's getting irrigated, this material is permeable because it's binding those pieces together. So it's still leaving air pockets and the ability for the water to run right through it. I did a test recently with the gravel because the gravel held so well. I wanted to see if I flooded the tray, would it release the water immediately? And of course, immediately it released the water. Now there were holes in the bottom of these trays so that I could test for the permeability, and then obviously not flood the trays with the glue. I wanted to give it a real world kind of experience in the tray. So it did drain. Everything, when I would spray it, would drain through the tray so that I could see exactly what would happen with the top levels, and not even a lot drained. I was spraying pretty thoroughly, but trying not to also have it drain because I wanted to see if it's locking in that top layer and it's not going into the soil, what that hold would be like. So essentially there's benefit to it in the fact that it will hold your mulch in place or whatever it is that you have on top of your beds, which then helps the soil because it's retaining moisture and not giving erosion issues to just having blank dirt, you know, with being subject to the elements. So definitely a plus there. So let's see what else. Oh, this is another great one. Does it keep weeds from coming through? So a weed is a weed, and a weed will find a way wherever it can. So I have noticed that it has suppressed the weeds in some of the areas that I did not treat with preen. However, weeds can still come through, particularly dandelions. I did have 2 dandelions come through on areas that were treated. And again, that's just due to the weed, you know, being able to find its way through any air or, you know, pockets to the light. So I do recommend putting a coat of preen down underneath your mulch or on top of your mulch, letting that water in, and then using the mulch glue so that you have 100% control of the weeds. And in the areas that I've done that since early spring until now, I have nothing. Okay, so pine straw ours dries out in 2 months and requires a new top layer. Will the glue help retain the look? This is something right now we're having tested. We have a friend that lives in Mississippi that said she has to replace the pine straw every couple months. So we are going to test this to see if it will help. Because it does coat the actual material, we do anticipate that the pine straw would last longer and stay in place, but we are testing that and we will have more reels coming on that as soon as we have the results. My mulch still blows away. I've applied twice. So it's very important that you mix the glue per the recommendations that are on the back of the bottle. So if you add too much water, you will dilute the glue and you will not be able to get the type of hold that, like say at my place, I get. So I'm mixing it exactly as it's supposed to be mixed. I'm applying a thorough coating, which means that I'm making sure it's getting on the top, dripping underneath, getting through those top. You want to envision it kind of going and soaking through the top 2 layers of the material that you're trying to lock in. And then I let that dry for a solid hour, sometimes even more. I mean, I've gone like, you know, if we're busy or whatever, I kind of just wait a couple hours and I'll get back to it later. I do let the glue stay in the tank during that time, but I bring it inside so it's not in the heat. It is best to apply it within that hour if you're keeping the glue in your tank because you don't want that to harden. So, and we're going to talk about that too, because this is super strong stuff when it does actually get onto material. So you don't want to have any cloth or any materials, clothes. You don't want this to get on any of that and let it sit. So you're going to make that first coat, let it dry completely, and then make a second pass with it in the same exact manner and potentially a third. So it depends on what location you're trying to attempt to bind together. If it's on a big slope, it may take 3 or sometimes even 4 coats to be able to really lock it in place. The most I've done is 3 with absolute satisfaction. I mean, that front area is locked in. There is nothing messing with that. And like I said, that's been for a few months now. So you have to apply it properly and thoroughly for this to work well. Let's go right into, even though I don't have it on the questions yet, I want to go right into taking care of your tank. So when I mix this glue, immediately after I'm done with that second coat, I let it drain through the wand and let as much of it come out completely. And then I'll take my tank, and usually, especially now that it's warm outside, the water coming out of the hose will be warm. So I fill the tank with that warm water. If you don't have warm water, then I highly encourage you to bring the tank inside and fill it with warm, very warm water. And then I lock the handle and let it spray all the way through. And that I have done. I've applied this mulch glue a bunch of times and I've not had any trouble. But I can tell you, I think I haven't had trouble because I take proper care of my sprayer. And that goes to say with anything. So any of the dyes or the grass paint, any of the products, I usually let it cycle through and spray it through the entire sprayer just to keep that clean. Also cleaning your nozzles. The nozzles, if they are coated in the glue, will get like a coat of glue and you're able to peel it off around the outside. But again, I usually clean them off really well with warm water. You can even apply Dawn dish soap to a bucket if you want to do that and throw the hose and the nozzle in there so that you can clean them up properly. So again, there's a great benefit to using this stuff, but there is care that needs to be taken on the other side to make sure that you don't ruin your sprayer. And then I made the grave mistake one day of using one of my actual like glass cleaning towels. There was glue that was dripping and I kind of just wiped it up, and I was making a video, so I just let it sit there and it's permanently and forever in that towel. So, I mean, if I boiled it, it would probably come out. But again, you don't want to be getting this on clothing or any materials, towels, and letting it sit. If it's wet, you can get it out easily, but if it dries, it's going to become very dry. So let's see, how many coats does it require? So we said, 2 is standard, it could be 3, and in really tough spots, up to 4 applications. Let's see, over time, will the application need to be reapplied or is it a permanent fix? So the glue and its strength we are giving longevity to that of 12 months. So, and some of them are up to 6 months, depends on what and where you're using this. Again, the weather is going to affect it. So you may have to reapply. Keep an eye on the area. If things start coming loose or if people are walking through it, pets are walking through it, you may have to reapply just to relock it together. So in the areas that I've done, aside from my testing, I haven't had any other disturbances. So it's been fine. I haven't had to worry about it, but I will definitely keep that posted as we continue to post month to month on that same spot and you know, how well it's doing. So let's see. Can this cause any negative reaction to your plants and roots if you spray it in the gravel or mulch on or around your plants? Will the plants have any negative impact? No. There is no negative impact. It is non-toxic. It is not going to hurt your soil. It is not going to hurt your plants. It will not hurt any of it. It is biodegradable, non-toxic. Okay, so I do love this one. I saw your videos a while back and instantly bought a vial. It's amazing, works perfectly, and it does. So would this be okay around a fire pit area with pea gravel? This would be perfect around a fire pit area with pea gravel. And we've seen some of our friends that have purchased the product have made some videos for us that show having the large cement block pavers and then the pea gravel around it, being able to spray all of that in and not worry about having that being kicked up and making a mess. We've had friends take out all of their landscaping on the sides of their houses and do pea gravel, and it has worked beautifully. And in fact, they've shown videos of trying to rake over it, walking over it, and everything's holding in place. So that would actually be a great application. So yes, it is permeable. It will allow the water to get through, which I think is super important, because if this didn't allow that, which that was one of my things too, obviously I have a lot of plants and I want to make sure that they get the water, the nutrients, especially rainwater and things that they need. So that was definitely something I tested and it worked beautifully with the permeability. So let's see here. What else do we have? What other questions? Won't it clog the nozzle? It will clog the nozzle if you don't clean it. So make sure that you are cleaning through and spraying through that warm water. What if someone falls on mulch sprayed with this? Well, like I said, it is going to be a little bit harder because it is a glue and it is bonding those layers together. But if you are using something like a rubber mulch, it will maintain the softness from the bottom levels. Okay, not sure us irrigators are going to be happy with this. So that was from Sierra Valley Irrigation, and he was referencing having to move it. So if you're putting this stuff down, having to then move the mulch or having it, clog the emitters of drip lines. So you want to make sure that your emitters are downward facing, which they should be anyways, just so for direct contact to the soil. And then moving it so it depends on how much you've sprayed. So in some of the areas where I told you I've done 2 coats, I've got a little bit of movement. It's enough to hold it together. If I'm using the blower very gently, it stays in place. But if I blasted it with the blower, it would start pulling out the loose pieces and eventually pull out. It would still keep the pieces that are all together on the top, but I would lose pieces. On the area that I have 3 coats, I would have to get in there and really kind of move around the mulch and pop it up and then be able to dig and plant a plant, which was another question that we got a ton of, was can you plant other things once you use this, or do you have to wait for it to degrade? So you could wait and just plant the following season, but if you need to do something now, if you're only using 2 coats, it's definitely possible. 3 coats would be a little more trouble for you to break the mulch apart and move it out, but it's not impossible, and it's totally doable, and it's just going to require a little more effort than normally, just spreading the mulch apart. So, okay, let's see here. Okay, so how are you able to test spray the mulch glue on your pavement there? It doesn't leave a residue. So wildly enough, I fill my sprayers in my driveway, and I put the mulch glue and it spilled out and was kind of going in the driveway. So as a test, I let it stay in the driveway just to see what would happen, because I need to be able to answer questions like this when someone says something. So the driveway, upon spraying it out and some whatever was there dried, so it did leave a mild, very mild residue where it looked like, which I'm actually going to take a picture and make sure it pops up here. Very mild residue, nothing crazy. But as we've had the last week of rain, it's almost gone now. Or gone entirely. I don't see any residue left from it. So that's the good news. It was watered down. So when it did hit the driveway, I did hit it with the hose and kind of really watered it down, and then it drained out of the driveway. So let's see what else we have here. Does the glue help retain the color of the mulch? The glue will make the mulch look wet, which is actually one of the things that I love about it. It adds a beautiful, beautiful sheen to the mulch. It's shiny and kind of glossy, and it makes the mulch look like it's wet, and it seals that in. So the pine bark nuggets that I love so much are even better with the mulch glue application because the brown is a little bit richer and thicker. And then I actually love the way it looks after it's been applied. So it is really beautiful, and it's beautiful even on the rock too, on the pea gravel and on the gravel. How does this hold up in summer heat? It's been really hot here. We haven't had any issues with it. It's been holding up great. No cracking, no degeneration that I've noticed from the heat. So again, we have friends that want to use it from rubber mulch play areas underneath their playgrounds. What about slightly larger decorative river rock? That's a great question because we actually have rock glue that is in process right now that will be coming out, and that will be more for holding larger pieces of rock. Anything larger than probably gravel would be more for the rock glue. So keep your eyes open for that. It's coming up soon. Okay. More questions. Can you drive on it? Can you run over it with a lawnmower or riding side by side? Again, that will probably most likely break the bond, especially if you're using something like a mulch where it is soft underneath. So then you're compressing and moving over the top layers. It's not impossible, and it will probably hold up great for while you're doing it the first few times, or for a while, but then it will break the bond and degrade faster when it is being walked on or driven on. So, but again, we have tests coming up, so definitely keep an eye out for that. So again, this is Max Mulch Glue in 3 different concentrations, Super Max, Max Mulch Glue, and the Mega Mulch Glue. And to be honest, I've used them all in different areas of the yard, and I've been very, very happy with all of them. So that is, okay, need to do this in my courtyard because kids are always kicking the rocks and pebbles into the walkway. Absolutely, this is perfect for that application. Is this available in stores? It is not available in stores. It is only available on PETRATOOLS.com and Amazon.com. Do you sell mulch glue in Europe or only in the US? Right now, it is only in the US. Wonder if you can do an entire driveway with this. You could, but it's going to require a lot of product. So I would definitely, if you have the ability to do it, what I would love to be able to do is have enough mulch glue that we could treat an entire gravel driveway, because I thoroughly believe it would cut down on the dust. I thoroughly believe that driving over it, albeit I don't know how long that would last. Like I said, we're still testing that. But I do think with what I've seen on this, it would cut down the dust for potentially a while, because even when it does rain and it starts to degrade, it's still going to continue to seep deeper into the rocks and absorb the dust. So it would be very interesting to be able to see what this could do with that. Okay, so outdoor shower floor area. Again, this is an area that's going to be washing a lot of water through it. So would be interesting to see if we had any friends that did use it for this purpose, if you could report back to us and let us know how it comes. So I want to use this on the rocks around my pool. The rocks are in a barrier fabric. Will it flood when it rains due to no holes in the bottom of the barrier? So again, this would lock in those rocks, and the water will go through the rocks and then into the barrier, over the top, the surface of the barrier fabric. So it shouldn't give any problems as far as flooding, unless the barrier holds the flooding. So this is permeable. It's going to allow water through it. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we will make sure that we answer them for you. And we will also get a description in there about the differences between the 3 different types of the glues, so that you have a little more information if you're planning to order. And of course, if you order and you do test this in an area on your property and take a video, send it to us. You can submit that to PetraMax _ on Instagram, or PetraMax or PetraTools on Facebook. And we would love to see how you're putting the mulch glue to work. So thanks again for checking in. Leave us comments. Let us know if you have any questions, and we will see you again very soon.